SecretBusiness.com podcast with Tony Rourke and Kevin O'Flaherty.
SecretBusiness.com, making you money.
Share it on Facebook, share it on LinkedIn, Twitter,
our blog, YouTube, videos,
Welcome to SecretBusiness.com podcast. I'm Kevin O'Flaherty from O'Flaherty Law, and I'm Scott Mathis with Plateau to Peak Consulting. We have Jason Wendt here today from Upstream Investment Partners, and our topic today is going to be marketing plans. Jason, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure, Scott. Thanks. Thanks, Kevin, and thanks, Scott, for having me here today. So I'm a private wealth manager with Upstream Investment Partners, and I work with a select group of individuals, families, and business owners in the Chicagoland area on their finances and helping them improve their financial situation.
You said wealth management. What's the difference in wealth management and all the other guys that are financial planners?
Yeah, great question. There could be a difference. I'd say it's more holistic in approach. So there's a lot of financial advisors out there, and they focus on more of just one particular area in a family's life or a business's practice. Wealth management is more looking at all angles. So it's looking at from just 529 college education plan for children, all the way to retirement planning to legacy planning for the individuals and families. And from the business perspective, I'm taking a look at when it comes to business lending, from 401ks to just C-level executives, special types of retirement planning for those folks that are in a higher income bracket.
Which one's your favorite?
If
you have one.
Yeah, I don't think I have a favorite. I like the investment side of things from both perspectives, from a business perspective as well as an individual perspective. That's exciting. Every day it changes a little bit. I guess I really just like meeting new people. I'm in the people business.
Right.
Learning about their situation and seeing how I can improve it, because everybody's situation needs a little bit of improvement, needs a little bit of efficiency. And I think a lot of people lack that these days because of the age of information. They're trying to Google something, and they find so much information, and they don't even know what to do with it, so I can kind of sift through that and help them and create efficiencies in their life now.
Gotcha. What's something you could bring to the average investor, the beginning investor, or the seasoned one that's a really good nugget that will help them in their lives financially?
Yeah, good question. For the average investor, I would say the first thing is just to start investing. I think the game one is people don't know what to do. They maybe will be investing in a company 401k. But step two is to really determine, do you want to go the directed, self-directed investment route? So do you want to go online to a website, do it yourself, or do you want to choose to go to a financial advisor? And when you do that, then determine, your risk, how risk averse you are, or what's your tolerance to risk. And that's something that advisors can help you with, but there are some online tools to do that as well. And
you were mentioning earlier before we started, where did you go to school? What's your background? How did you get into this?
Sure. So my background, I went to Carthage College in Kenosha, Wisconsin. I was a physics major there with a emphasis in business administration and entrepreneurial studies. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about, the marketing planning today, I think, a little bit. After Carthage, I went to Dubai and I studied international business there. And then after that, I got a job in Illinois as an account manager with the Cisco Systems company, and due to the economy, things had shifted, and then decided to become a ski bum, I guess you could say, a ski instructor. And I'll parlay that into where I'm at today. When I was there, I was learning about the investment market and just learning what I needed to do with the income I was having. I was a ski instructor, but I knew that wasn't my end game. What is my end game? And while I was just learning about the market, reading books about it, I realized I think it's fascinating. All day long, all you're doing is problem solving, you're figuring things out. And if I can apply that and help people with that, I always like sales, and I guess combine the sales aspect of my life and the investment side, and then I became a financial advisor, and I haven't really looked back since then.
So do you help small businesses as it relates to their financial planning as well, or just individuals?
Yeah, I do. I help a lot of small business owners with their financials, because it gets really tricky. Their capital is invested in the business, so they don't have a 401k typically. They don't have their own investments, any traditional retirement accounts.
Right.
So with theirs, it gets more granular in the details of how to build that business, but also how to set a retirement plan for them. Because business owners, they're their reinvestment is in the business. It's not in themselves, as if you're an employee. So I help them plan ways through insurance products, but also alternative products that somebody that is employed, say a W-2 employee, can't do. And so I look at their perspective because they're a 1099 or a contracted type employee typically, and we look at their financial picture. And
when you're looking at their overall, and this is jumping into the topic of business plans, how many businesses have a business plan when you sit down about financial plan? Do they have a direction? Do they know that's their what their end game is at all? Do they even have a plan?
They all have a plan. They probably haven't updated it in a long time. Typically when they first start the business, whether it's themselves or a partner or some other folks that are within the business, they create that plan then, but now it's been collecting dust, been there for 5, 10, 15 years, and they haven't changed it, they haven't updated it, they haven't looked at it. And that's where I come in to help them reevaluate that business plan. Let's take a look at that. Where do you see yourself today? Where do you see yourself in 6 months, a year from now, 3, 5 years from now? And they realize that business plan is completely out of date. They also realize that the processes in place are out of date as well. Maybe they don't have social media in place. Maybe they don't have a website. The number of people I've spoken with that don't have websites today is pretty astonishing. Or if they have a website, they're assuming it's going to drive traffic and they haven't updated it in 2 or 3 years.
Right. I saw that a lot. I was in the jewelry business for a long time, and a lot of the jewelry businesses are owned by older people, and they don't. There's no business plan. There's no website. Nothing.
Yeah.
So what would you say is the most important part of a successful business plan?
Good question. I think the first part, it seems very obvious, but it's just to recognize that you need to have a business plan.
Sure.
A lot of people say, "Oh, I need one," yes, and then that's as far as they go. We'll recognize it and have an actionable item, create it or update it. Be accountable for that, and take the time, carve it out, take the time to actually update that business plan.
You mentioned earlier that you had done quite a few big, robust business plans. Is it necessary for it to be big or small, or do you have any insights into what makes it successful? Any one thing?
Yeah, size doesn't matter. It's the content that matters.
All right. Let's keep it clean on this podcast, right?
So
I don't think there are any children watching.
Right. So whether it's a 2-pager or a 20-pager, it doesn't matter. Just the content is the most important. So having a business plan and then following that's more important than having a 40-page business plan, because typically a small business owner or a small business, they won't follow it. You only create a business plan to guide you through the process of bettering the business that you're in.
Do you think that working on business models and having a set direction and plan correlates to financial success, either in business or in your personal life?
Yeah, absolutely. I know for myself, my personal life, I set goals for everything, whether it's just to go to the gym so many days a week, and I hold myself accountable. I've got kind of like a checkbox of things to do throughout the day. And I've noticed when I do that with my clients as well, is creating a business plan, but also having a check-in process to keep them accountable. They realize that they just don't, the things that they say they're going to do, they don't do them. And
if you write them down, you might do them.
Yeah, exactly.
You're more likely to do them.
Yeah, you're more likely to do them. And if you make them measurable, so put a timeline out there too. That really helps. So have a goal and then say I need to accomplish X by next week, or maybe in 6 months. A lot of people just say, well, I'll do it next week, and the next week happens. Well, I've got my kid's soccer game. Okay, and then all of a sudden a month later it goes, and well, it's a summer, and I want to enjoy the summer with my family. And then you're into Christmas and the season, the holiday season, and people always have an excuse, whether they mean to make an excuse or not. They always have some other item on their mind that pushes it down the road. So having that accountability, I think, is key.
So what are the pieces of a good business plan? What different parts need to go into this?
Sure, there's a lot of tools that need to go into the business plan. The first is, as I mentioned earlier, just recognizing that you need one, and carving out that time to build a business plan. And then after you've done that, you need to just assess your current conditions of your business, where you're at today, where you're looking to go, and where you came from a little bit. You don't have to write that down necessarily, but you do need to write down your vision. Where do you see that business? Where do you see your employees if you have employees? Where do you see yourself today, 6 months, a year from now? Because that's what's going to make the business plan effective. So you write those visions and goals down. Then you got to see. Then the next step is, well, how are you going to meet those goals and visions? And the first part, I know, just being a small business owner myself, is having a budget. That's the biggest constraint in my business and marketing plan. Is I've got these great ideas, but in order to execute them, it's pretty expensive. And it's one of those where you have to pull your own income off the table to make that happen. And I figure out the budget I have, and then I go from there, and then I create that marketing plan.
So here's what my business plan looks like, and you tell me what I'm missing.
Okay.
So one of the things that Scott, when he started working with me, helped me do is come up. We call it a focus plan, but it seems like it's one part of what should be a multi-part plan. What we have is we've got our vision for the company, what the goal of the whole company is, what we're trying to do with the company. Got some core values that we want all the employees to follow, and then we've got our 3 big goals. So for me, there's only a couple different ways I can make more money. I can have a more efficient infrastructure. I can hire more junior associates, or I can make my existing associates more efficient. So we've got kind of like 3 headline. Those are our big picture goals. Then we break those down into subgroups. So hiring more people. One of those subgroups is marketing, another is sales. And then within each of those, we have the different tasks kind of in order that we need to accomplish in those areas. And every month, and we'll assign who's the person within the organization that's going to be the lead on that, and who's going to be their support. And we used to set deadlines, but we don't really do that anymore. It's just this is the order we're going to tackle them.
Yeah.
So we go through, and every 2 months or so we look at and we say, what did we accomplish since the last time we evaluated it? Put that up on a list. That feels good.
Yeah.
Here's what we accomplished. Sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's a little. And then we say, hey, what do we need to add to the list? What's irrelevant now? What can we take off the list? Not because we did it, but because it's not important anymore. So we have a good vision, but we don't have a budget. It's the financial end of things where it falls apart. So if that's a baseline, what's missing from that to make it a good plan? Is that a fair question?
Yeah, it is. It sounds like you've done quite a bit of research yourself. You've got the business plan. You're holding yourself accountable. You have, actionable. It sounds like every company wants to reevaluate where you're at and where you want to go. And from the monetary perspective, then, so
it's almost like a glorified task list.
It is, and nobody likes a laundry list of things to do. Unfortunately, that's what keeps most of us honest. And we're not trying to be dishonest. We're just trying to follow the process. And I've got a task list on my phone as well as on my computer, and there are 2 different task lists. Just because if I'm out and about and I just think of something while I'm driving to a game or something, I got to write it down. I got to keep myself honest. I guess for years your concern or the question was about the financials.
Yeah, we don't have anything like that. That's something we're working on.
Yeah.
Together, but
yeah, I guess you want to reevaluate your current budget. Is the capital you're spending, is it appropriate for what you're trying to do? Other ways to do it are looking at alternative ways. Just looking at alternative means of getting loans. An equity line of credit, whether it's on the business or on a personal level. I've worked with a lot of business owners that they actually have life insurance policies, and we've converted some of that into a line of credit. So now it's freed up that life insurance policy in a sense that they can invest $100,000 into their business. And that takes away directly from that life insurance policy if they're to pass, but it's a loan, and it's given them an interest-free loan that they can use to put in their business. Now they have to pay it back, otherwise then there's a lot of complications. But it's opened up the avenue for more cash for them.
And we did a good episode with Jeff Anderman about alternative financing for people who can't just get a traditional bank loan. So if you're curious about that, go back and listen to the episode, listeners. But how do you go about setting a budget? Because we used to have
creating one the first time.
Yeah, someone because we don't have a budget right now. We know what it costs to do business.
Sure.
But one of the things we'd like to do is put together a marketing plan. And the first step of that is how much are we going to spend on marketing? Well, we can pick a number out of the air and say 5% of revenue. I've been told that's what you need to spend if you're going to be serious about marketing, but
But it's meaningless unless you know where you stand from a financial perspective. I guess the first thing I would just look at the cost of you doing business. Look at from a rent perspective. What is it costing to have the brick and mortar? If you have that, maybe if you don't, what is it costing for an online presence? Just look at your expenses first, and then figure out your income, and go for it. I guess it's tough to give you a small answer. I guess.
Well, give me a big answer.
I guess every situation is a little different, and looking at the expenses, looking at your current income, then we can kind of evaluate where a budget needs to be or what number that is. It's eliminating inefficiencies, because I assure you that everybody has some inefficiencies. We all do. We're human. We're not a computer. I think my computer is pretty inefficient once in a while, but that's another story. But it's I guess looking at your staff too, making sure that they're not saying your staff is inefficient, but making sure they're doing the right tasks that'll produce the revenue you're looking for. There's a lot of things out there, and I'm guilty of it. Is I do a lot of marketing. I've updated my website. Is that necessary for me to do? It's very time consuming. Instead of me bringing in more clients and meeting with existing clients, I'm updating my website. It's probably inefficient. I shouldn't be doing that. I should pay somebody else to do that, because my time is bringing in more revenue. So looking at it from that perspective also could help and open up some more income or revenue.
So you've got to not only budget your money, you've got to budget your time, and you've got, if you want to have a 40-hour work week, which not everyone is lucky enough to have,
Right.
but how do you allocate those 40 hours? Can you trade some of your money to free up some of that time? And
Yes. Yeah.
so when you you start by looking at expenses and just maybe prepare kind of a monthly average and break it down by category.
Yeah, I've done that. We're looking at a monthly average, looking at a 12-month picture of expenses. So for me, the fall and the spring are really expensive. I'm doing a lot of marketing, but I've also realized that's the most efficient time for me to do marketing. So we would first look at your expenses from an annualized perspective, then look at which months you either need to spend more money or you don't.
And how do you figure that out? How did you find out that fall and spring were the most efficient times for you?
Trial and error.
Okay.
Also, just talking with a lot of people that are in my similar situation in my industry. Every industry is different. If you're going to make Christmas trees, your expensive season is probably in the summer. Why is that? Because you're paying for marketing in the fall and the winter. So people don't really think that, it's going to be expensive for them to market Christmas trees in the winter. They've already paid for that though, so their budget has to be in the summer.
That's interesting. So once you've laid out the expenses, then you can say, here's how much I need to take home in order to meet my personal expenses.
Yeah.
And then you've got exactly how much income you need your business to generate in order to satisfy those expenses. And then I assume you can say, okay, if I'm generating X amount of income and I'm only spending Y in expenses, then I can budget some of that for marketing. Is that how you would fit that figure?
Yeah, in theory that's how it would be. Everybody's situation is so different from the expenses and the liabilities perspective that it's hard for me to generalize, I guess, that because whether you're an attorney or an advisor or you sell widgets or sell donuts, I think everybody has a different budget. I can't just tell you that you need to hire one more person and it'll be the end all. Because that may or may not work.
Well, Scott, you've talked before about a cost of goods analysis.
Yeah.
Can you explain what that is?
Sure.
I assume that's part of. Are you familiar with this? Is that part of a business plan, or is that a whole separate deal?
Budgeting is part of a business plan, and that's part of budgeting. If you look at a cost of goods, you're looking at if you're making a pencil or a pen, what does it cost for the final product of that? And as it relates to what we worked on with you, it's a legal service, which is more difficult to do. But you've got the pen, you've got the sleeve, you've got the ink, you've got the ball at the end, and you've got all that stuff.
So you can say I can sell my pen for $5. It costs me $1 to make the pen. So from that I'm making $4 profit.
Right.
And if all of my that includes all your other overhead probably.
Right. And so that's it.
So if I want to make $8, I need to sell 2 pens.
Right. And so that's why you have to have cost of goods, and you have to put in also the employee cost. That's the other one I didn't mention. Because if I pay $8 an hour, if it's an hour to do it, then it's $8.
Yeah, and that would be in the business plan too, because when you're creating that budget and creating that marketing plan, you need to know that your cost of goods.
Sure.
And
So,
then, oh, go ahead.
Inventory is something